Hello and welcome to another episode of Film Freaks with a Z, the podcast all about movies. Each episode is about a specific movie, which we'll get to in a little bit. But first, of course, I need to ask you, the listener, to join us in this endeavor by submitting a video, not a video, a movie to our podcast vote that happens during Tay's episode. So if you want to get your movie onto the next vote, just send us an email at ff.filmfreaks with a Z at the end at gmail.com or comment on the latest episode of Film Freaks with a Z or talk in my Discord or private message us or just say it while you're on the podcast if your movie gets chosen. People's movies that are new usually get into the next vote. So if you want us to talk about a movie that you're yearning for someone else to watch, this is the place to do it. Before we introduce the movie, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. I am Nexus 6 the Ferret. Who am I here with?
Runner Waffles.
And I am K4L4S, aka Callus.
And today, of course, we have a special guest with us. He runs his own sci-fi Discord. Who do we got here with us today?
Hello there. I'm General Obi-Wan Kenobi at your service.
General Kenobi.
Nice to have you.
Thank you for having me.
He does have the high ground, everyone.
Yep.
He's got the high ground. How you doing, Kenobi? I mean, a lot of people, this will be the first time they actually hear your voice.
Yes, it's quite interesting, huh? Well, actually, for some people, will be the first, but for you, Yemmy and Waffles, you already heard me before when we played Zero Hour.
That's right.
Yes. Back in the day, back
We
in our
have the
day.
inside knowledge on this one.
Well, it's definitely
Knowledge.
my first time, and you know what? I gotta say, I did not expect your voice to sound so silky smooth.
Yeah, romantic. So Kenobi streams when?
When
Right after yours, Greedy.
Oh, okay. Well, back to back.
Yes.
So, Kenobi, you run your own Discord server. Why don't you
That's-
tell us a little bit about that?
my Discord server.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so my Discord server is a sci-fi. We talk about all kind of sci-fi franchises, started from like Star Wars, Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica, Warhammer 40K, some other sci-fi franchises. And today, looks like a sci-fi movie got picked, and we're gonna talk about Blade Runner, 1982. Which it's a sci-fi movie. It's which where we have Blade Runner must pursue and terminate four replicants who stole a ship in space and have returned to Earth to find their creator. So the movie is been directed by Ridley Scott. We have some writers in there: Hampton Fancher, which is the screenplay, David Webb Peoples, another screenplay, and Philip K. Dick, which the novel is been adapted to, which the novel has been called "Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?" And we have the cast: Harrison Ford, Rodger Hauer, Sean Young, Edward James Olmos, Malcolm Wash, Daryl Anna, William Sanderson, and so on, of course.
Everyone's
good.
like, Harrison Ford does other movies besides Star Wars?
Harrison Ford is quite the seasoned actor, you know?
He's a seasoned actor, and actually, not to surprise you, but this movie actually got nominated a lot of times. It got 12 wins and 19 nominations in total.
Wow.
That's a good
Wow.
amount, yeah.
Swept the awards.
Yeah, and before we also begin talking about, so we picked the final cut because that's the latest, and that's how Ridley Scott wanted his movie to be whole completely. What is the difference between the final cut? They try to call him director. Well, he
That's what I
just-
was wondering.
Yeah.
Well, he needed to add some extra scenes, more color that has not been made in theatrical cut specifically. I mean, because he didn't he there were some m- missing pieces that he wanted to add, and since he added, the movie made more sense.
Okay.
Like for
Yeah.
example, I can give you some titles like he restored the violence and why it matters. Also, they explained it, the dream sequence at the end, and why exactly mattered to Ridley Scott specifically is because, like I said, you understand exactly who who uh, who actually Deckard is in the whole movie.
So it's pretty much his Ridley Scott's full vision on the screen, right? It's not a cut down version for a theatrical release.
Exactly, yes, because Ridley Scott was also like um, what do you call it, like art kind of arguing with others, and well, he decided just to make sure that everybody the movie, that's how he wanted to be and that's how it's supposed to be.
So has this movie always been an hour and 50 minutes, or did it shorten down with like
No,
different
with
cuts?
extra scenes and everything, of they're being added more minutes.
Oh, okay, what's the original length? Do you know?
The original, I don't remember. I think it was somewhere. Uh, I actually don't remember. Let me check it out
If
because
you don't remember, it's not bad. It's not a big deal.
Letterbox says it's 118 minutes.
the
Okay,
well
and then final cut is 157.
No, it's a wait. Is it? Because isn't the final cut like just under 2 hours?
Yes, I
Yeah,
think. I think the final
yeah.
cut is just under 2 hours. So yeah, 118 minutes would be an hour and 20 or so, right?
An hour and 58.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said, right? Or did I say?
Wait.
I'm just so very confused.
I said an hour and 57 minutes.
So maybe Letterboxd has the final cut one on here because they're saying it's 118 minutes, which would be about an hour and almost yeah. So
Yeah, it's an hour 58.
Mhm.
yeah, we don't know what the original cut time was.
Anyways, I didn't mean
Well,
to call him.
it's not important. I mean, we're
Yeah,
gonna be
that's
talking
what
about the final cut. So if someone in the audience is like, I don't remember that scene, it's probably because it was in the final cut and not in the
Okay,
director's
I
or
I got it.
theatrical.
Actually got it. The theatrical will be 114 minutes. The director's cut will be 116 minutes, and the final cut 117 minutes, pretty much.
Okay.
Oh,
So,
so
yeah.
there really wasn't
Oh,
like
okay.
No.
It's just
No,
like a
too
no.
minute or
much
two
added, but
difference.
it's probably more context was added to some of those scenes, like you said, Kenobi.
Yes, yes. They just added like a more specific explanations to the movie itself.
So, if I may ask the question, like, so before this version came out, they came out with the director's cut. Is that like all also the same idea to where like they kind of just plan to add the extra explanations to that, and then with the final version they just decided to add more and just actually complete it, or what happened with the second version,
What do you mean the second version?
the
Which
director's
version?
cut?
The director's cut. They did some changes in there, but looks like Ridley Scott wanted to make some more changes, and he decided to make the final cut. So that's where we have the final cut.
Interesting.
I mean, the majority of viewers that actually love Blade Runner, they just decided. Well, some of them prefer much the final cut because they changed the kind of the contrast more. I think the contrast, if I'm not mistaken. Um, well, the scenes that he added and changed were kind of important for the movie itself.
So you would say that the final cut is the best version of the movie, then, right?
Yes, yes.
Which is contrary to what George Lucas did to Star Wars as a whole. He did a lot of things with those extra versions and new releases that a lot of people disagreed with, whereas Final Cut seems like more people agree with the changes made to the film.
Um, well, I cannot speak for George Lucas because his movies are completely different from Blade Runner.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, Star Wars is obviously a whole different genre, but well, not whole different, but slightly different. But yeah, I mean, you look at like how George Lucas changed his movies and how he added things like the weird CG dinosaur walking in front of the screen during the Tatooine scene in A New Hope. He added like a whole bunch of weird things to the movie, along with fixing some things. But it sounds like what Ridley Scott did is he didn't exactly change anything other than you were saying some saturation and stuff like that to make the movie look better, and he also added in some scenes for more context instead of like layering on top of what he already had, or completely changing things like taking out the original voice actor for Boba Fett and putting in the guy who does Jango Fett.
Uh, well, I'm pretty sure they had problems before, even when doing it. I mean, in every movie, uh, had their different. Every actor has their different opinions. I mean, you have to understand that even when George Lucas began his movies, it wasn't exactly perfect. I mean, Alec Guinness, who was playing the old Ben Kenobi, he even himself didn't like it. The dialogue was very off. Was very like one line, like something you would not appreciate because Alec Guinness, he played in a lot of movies before Star Wars, and for him everything was like kind of rubbish, and so the dialect should have been changed, and when the dialect has been changed, that's when actually Alec Guinness, sorry, Sir Alec Guinness actually decided to play the old bad Kenobi. Well, he played before, but he wasn't very appreciated because his role was, he always felt like he want to play a much important role, like let's say Lawrence of Arabia, or what's the other movie I forgot, but just to let you know, like certain like so yeah.
But I mean, that was
Understandable. Yeah.
pre-filming the first Star Wars, though, right? That he George Lucas made those changes to have more Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars before filming and everything, right?
Well, George Lucas is different from Ridley Scott because Ridley Scott.
Well,
Uh,
I'm just saying the point still stands that it seems like Ridley Scott's changes to the final cut more people agree with than changes that George Lucas made down the road with the original trilogy, and how he kind of added things and subtracted things that people enjoyed about the movie. I mean, there's still the whole controversy about who shot first. Speaking of Harrison Ford, that's one of the most controversial scenes in Star Wars now, because there's people who say Han shot first, but then it's like, oh, Greedo shot first, and it's like, oh, Han Solo moved his head in a janking manner to dodge the bullet. It's like, that those are the kind of things I'm talking about. So when I'm saying like Ridley Scott did a better job with the final cut, I'm saying like he didn't change things that were crucial to the movie, and he didn't change things that were um they didn't like they didn't add things that people were like turned off by, essentially. Like when he changed things, it was like little fine touches, whereas George Lucas, he came in there with a sledgehammer and destroyed some things.
no, basically, yeah, basically, Ridley Scott, what he did, the final cut, he just fixed some scenes.
Finesse.
Yeah, he did more finesse way to his movie.
And
Yeah.
FYI, this is the part of the podcast where we talk about another movie. Gotta throw that in every episode.
Well, I mean, I was trying to compare the Star Wars to because there's a lot of changes that happened to Star Wars, and hearing that there was three different versions of Blade Runner, and plus Star Wars is also another sci-fi movie. I thought it would all work together. Plus, we have Obi-Wan Kenobi on this show. What do you-
Yeah, we had to, yes. We cannot. It can't be like Film Freaks without talking about a different movie that we're supposed to be talking about. So
I
there you go.
agree.
We checked off that. What's it
But
called? Anyways, keep going.
yeah, we checked it off the list. But
Yeah, there.
let's focus more in on Blade Runner as a movie. Kenobi, where would you like to start the conversation on that?
So before I actually begin, I want to say happy birthday to Blade Runner 1982 because turned 40 this year.
Ah, happy birthday, Blade Runner!
Nice.
Hey.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
I'm kind of happy that we're doing the podcast this year, not next year.
Yeah. 40th anniversary. Wow.
So I have I have kind of did two parts. We're gonna talk. talk about the movie itself, and we're gonna talk about other interesting topics about the movie, like when we're gonna finish, like after reviewing the movie actually. So we're gonna start by evaluating the movie. How how you gonna give this opinion to the movie to the other viewers?
Wait, I don't think I understand. What were you saying?
Well,
How do
how do you evaluate the movie? Let's say, for example, let's say you start with a like a journalism. What do you give something important? Like, um, is
Like,
there
what would be
some?
like the first topic? Like, what? Like, if I was writing a review on this, what would be the first thing that I would write about the movie?
Yeah,
I mean, I would start off with like the visuals and the cinematography. I think that that was really the star of the show. With the music added on in there, it just all blended together perfectly in this movie.
yeah, yeah. Okay. What about you, Greedy Waffles?
so you're saying like how I would like describe the movie to people, or
Well,
How would you like begin a conversation describing the movie?
like your opinions should be explained to allow the reader to determine whether they will agree with your opinion.
I agreed that what Yemi was saying is like it's visually pleasing and really interesting story, but I will also say it was a little hard to follow and it was a little bit snooze fest at times. Is that what you're kind of thinking,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Well, yeah. You know, cinematography, the view, everything, the
yeah,
music
all that was
was pretty
great,
much
and
excellent. Yeah,
yeah, and what's the word I'm looking for? Like the wardrobe. What's the word again? What's that word? Um,
No, that's the word. Yeah,
Wardrobe,
the
wardrobe. Yeah,
yeah
that was all pleasing,
the
and all, that was
costumes.
all costumes. That
the
was all
set
nice.
design.
The set design was good. I liked all that. That was really cool.
Yeah, they did an amazing job building the world of Blade Runner, and
Mm.
it's actually quite interesting. Like we watched Soylent Green not too long ago, and how different those two renditions of the 2020s are.
Yeah,
It's
how
kind of
our world is
crazy.
supposed to be nowadays.
Yeah.
What about you, Callus?
Well, I would just have to say how the I I guess I agree with like both of you in a way to where like I was very intrigued by the story and like the characters, the world, like everything looks so visually cool. But at the same time, everything kind of just progressed very slow, which it's not really like a criticism. It being slow is just like a slower pace. It's just like what the movie was going for. But
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, but I mean,
Mm.
there was also a few things that I was kind of confused about that hopefully we can talk about as we get to.
that's why I separated the movie into parts.
Hmm.
Yeah, in my little blurb that I write to remind myself about the movie, I said that it was both really engaging but somehow really boring at the same time. And I don't know, when I think back to the movie, like I was like so like there's a sequence where Decker is kind of interrogating the snake lady, and then they go through that chasing, and I thought that was really really well done, like that whole section. And then I think to parts of the movie where it's like, it's Harrison Ford and he's just kind of like sitting there talking to someone, and I'm like, wow, this is really starting to drag a little bit. Is it? It's weird. It's weird because I really love the world they built, and I really love like the story that they're building, and like just how engaging this movie is on a visual level. And then I feel like the story, like parts of the story and dialogue and stuff, and it just kind of lags behind a little bit.
Yeah, even in
Yeah.
like parts where like nothing is happening and everything's just like dragging on, I was like looking at the screen and I was like, you know what? The visuals are still cool. Like the way this particular scene was shot, like the way the lights are shining off of this and that, and everything just looks really cool. It's just everything just progresses very slow.
Well, it does progress very slow, but in the other when you watch the movie, you kind of understand why it progress very slow. Like towards you kind of understand why it goes towards the end because we can see Decker what it's trying to do because what task has been given to him that he needs to accomplish because
Yeah, I mean that's all interesting. I'm not going to say it's not. But I just feel like there's a part of the movie where it's like I'm really engaged, but then there's other parts of the movie where I'm kind of not zoning out, but I'm just kind of like watching and going, okay, like I don't mind movies that are very dialogue forward. That's not a problem. It's just there were parts of the movie I felt like were really slow and they didn't have the same momentum as other scenes.
Hmm. In my the part where it's right in the beginning where he's like, "My mother," I just thought of your stream, Yemmy, where you're like, "My mom." I chuckled at that.
Shall
All
we
right.
begin talking about like specific scenes from the movie?
Um, we can talk about specific scenes if you want. You want to talk about specific scenes?
Yeah, sure. I mean, where do we even start?
Go ahead, Callus. Brought it up.
Oh man. Well, I was hoping someone else would start because all I can think of is just like scenes that are near the end.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Well,
we could start with just the opening scene with the because it's not really clear. I mean, obviously they're kind of throwing you into the situation where the Nexus guy is being given those questions, and I thought that was really it was really confusing to start off with that because it's like, well, I don't know anything about this world yet, but you're just throwing me into this situation where he's asking all these questions, and obviously it gets a little bit more explained later on. How'd you guys find the introduction?
well, I am gonna say that I have seen this movie before. I believe it was the director's cut, but that was years ago, so I barely remember anything about this. But I do remember that it was because he was they thought he was a replicant, so that's why they were giving him the test. I do remember that. But I do remember like the first time I saw the movie with the director's cut, I was very confused throughout the whole thing. So yeah, I do understand how you feel.
Well, I don't know about you, but I felt like when it started, I pretty much got this feeling that it's not gonna start pretty good, because you already see the atmosphere, how the people were living, so you pretty much guessed that is a dystopian a world, and
Yeah, they
and
do a good
and
job like
and
setting the
and
scene for sure.
yeah, and when it's already started, you see Decker is just buying some food and try to eat, and every time the the friend's detective Gaff, that's his name, comes in and talks in what they call the CD speak
Is
language.
that the Edward James Olmos characters?
That's Elder James Olmos character. Yes.
I was very confused by him. I have many questions about him.
Well.
Well,
um, oh
I,
yeah.
I I thought he stood out like a sore thumb in this world, but I really liked his character, making the origami figures and stuff and leaving them everywhere.
Well, there's a reason for that as well. Why he make
I
it.
I would love to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enlighten us.
We're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to
Oh,
it.
you're gonna keep us
Yeah.
waiting?
Ah.
All right, no, all right. So okay, fine. The reason he makes origami is because he knows the true identity of Deckard, pretty much.
Mm,
That's why he makes origamis. I mean, if you remember the last scene, what he said to Deckard before he runs off with Rachel. Do you guys remember what he said?
yeah, he
What
said
he
that we
said?
all die soon or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You pretty much got it right. Yeah. And do you guys remember what was the last origami that Decker seen before the end of the credits?
Oh, I
Was it a
just now
little
put it
person?
together. No, it wasn't. I
It wasn't
just
the
put it
person.
together. Okay, hold on. I just came to a big realization. So the last origami was a unicorn,
That's
which
Oh
true.
Deckard
yeah, yeah.
previously had the dream about. I was like very confused by that dream, and I was like wondering like where did it come from and what it has to do with anything. But I just now put it together.
Yeah, because androids have memories implanted in them.
They're
So if
not
Yeah.
called they're not called androids. They're
well,
called
yeah,
replicants.
Nexus or whatever replicants, yeah.
Replicants.
Replicants. To Yeah, they call replicants, not androids. They've been called androids in the novel, not in the movie actually. The whole replicant name is being created for the movie actually.
Oh, so was
But
this like
that,
the first movie that used that term then?
That's correct. Yeah, yeah.
Wow, there you go.
oh wow.
Groundbreaking.
Yeah,
One
never
thing that
heard
I
it
was
before.
one thing that I was like kind of thrown off by is so the first time I've seen this movie years ago, I kind of remember them making it kind of more clear that he was an android. But when I watched it this time, like by the end of the day, I wasn't sure if he was or not, and I was like wondering if I had just I don't know what happened, but is that something that they made clearer before, and now they're like leaving it a bit more vague?
Well, that's where the final cut is. That's where you see the final origami, the last scene for the dream sequence. So you understand that actually Deckard is a replicant, pretty much, and not a human.
Yeah, that's
That's
like
what
the
I'm
big
saying. Like
reveal at the end.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It
Because
was like more clearer the first time I saw it than this time. It was like
Yeah, I
clearer the
wonder if
first time
that
around.
probably was one of the changes made then.
yeah, pretty much.
hmm.
So
Yeah,
okay,
that's
so I
yeah.
guess I probably would have liked the movie less with the director's cut because I liked that ending reveal kind of thing that happened, you know?
Yeah,
Also, like Rachel even mentions during, or maybe it was after the test, has Decker ever taken a test himself? And that was also like a little hint there too, which
yeah.
I went back and thought of at the end of the movie.
Uh, well, it's there been actually a debate before between the fans and Ridley Scott when he was asked before if actually Deckard is a replicant or not, and Ridley Scott has said himself, I mean, all the signs were they point towards that he's a replicant, pretty much. While there was an interview with Harrison Ford said he's he's not a replicant. But basing from a actor's point of view, from a director, that's kind of hard to argue because the director knows the movie most than the actor himself. You know.
Right. And, he's also, I mean, it seems like when the director cut came out, he was maybe a little bit too heavy-handed with that, and then when the final cut came out, that's when he finessed it to be more of like a surprise at the end. That's what it sounds like
Yes.
to me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what he was trying to make. That's what I say. That's why the final cut is like a whole movie completed, pretty much for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes a lot
Okay.
of sense.
So it's a good thing that we watched this version because I think I wouldn't have liked the more in your face
Um,
director's cut.
I think
I
I
mean, I think it
also
was still like subtle. Like, it wasn't. I don't think they made it like that in your face. It's just. I
Well, the way
I
you were
wish I
describing it,
remember.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just going off of what yours guys are saying.
No,
I
well,
never, I didn't watch it.
what I said is like it was a little bit more obvious to me, like from the director's cut when I finished that, to where like it was just a little bit more confused in this one. But I don't think they threw like anything out that was like extremely obvious.
Right.
okay. So
So, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, well, I guess we can. You guys anything else specific since the talk, or we can a little bit move on to actors?
Yeah, the other scene that I wanted to mention was a scene that made me really uncomfortable, and it was the scene where Harrison Ford almost forces himself on Rachel.
Yeah. It's
Um,
like kiss me.
yeah, it was very very weird. I don't know. It just kind of made me uncomfortable because I mean she was walking out. I mean, if they had left it where Harrison Ford was reaching out towards her and that was it, I've been like that's fine. But I mean, he goes over there, he shuts the door, he forces a kiss on her, and I'm like, okay, this is getting weird.
That scene also took way too long. Like for her, like I don't know if I was just kind of like just ready to move on at that point, but it was just like them leading in, felt like it took like 10 minutes,
It's
and then
it's
she left. I was like, oh jeez.
um well, I think Decker was trying to prove that I think Kiss Me in a way It's a more of an emotional response because he knows that she's a replicant.
Mhm.
Replicants, as you know, they don't have those emotional feelings. I mean, they do have it, but they're not trying to like. They kind of understand, but they don't they don't know like exactly what it is like a human does because I don't know if you I guess you guys remember when they took the void camp test or the void test
Yeah.
and been asking every questions about like what you're gonna do in the situation, blah, etc., etc. And they're trying to figure out how emotionally they will respond, and they that's how they figure out if the actually the person is a replicant or a human. You know,
I thought at that point Rachel already knew that she was a replicant, though.
she knew, but maybe she wasn't given a much freedom to ask because she was always pretty much around Tyrell. I mean, maybe she knew, but we don't know that. It's not been mentioned somewhere in the movie that we know so far. Well, I don't know if they mentioned that somewhere else, maybe in the movies or somewhere.
It was more like implied that she knew.
Yes, exactly. It was more implied that she knew, but it wasn't exactly like like she figured out that maybe she is, maybe she's not. Because remember the scene when he took the test on her after doing the questions. He asked, she doesn't know, right? Like he even
Hmm.
asked Tyrell, and Tyrell was very positive that was very positive that probably like maybe or not, like so this type of answer.
Yeah, I was under the assumption by that scene that she already had, because didn't she even ask? I feel like she already knew by that point. Like, I thought it was pretty
I
cut and dry, clear that she knew.
No, I think you
Well,
were right. Like she did ask, like she said something like, "Oh, I'm a replicant, aren't I?" or something like that, didn't she?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Unless I have the scenes reversed in my head, but I feel like because I remember when I was watching Harrison Ford doing, tongue kissing her, I was like, he knows she's a replicant, she knows she's a replicant, right? And so it's, hmm. I don't know. It's possible I have the scenes backwards or something, but I swear that she knew that she was a replicant by the time that scene came around.
no, actually, she didn't know that she was a replicant before. Probably after making the test with Decker, she started to suspect
Hmm.
because imagine when you make a let's say you make a replicant, right? You're gonna remember how they make a replicant, right? They make them very strong, but they also implant them with false memories.
Well, that's the other thing. Doesn't she crumple up the photo and throw it on the floor in that same scene where she asks Decker if he's taken the test before, which is
Well,
before the sex scene.
but nobody knows if Decker took the test or not.
Well, I'm just saying Rachel knew that she was a replicant at that point because she crumples up the photo. She goes, "Oh, they implanted these memories in my head," and then
That's
she throws it
that's
on the
be,
floor.
that's because Decker kind of helped her out to understand that she actually a replicant, and so he
Right.
was so he was starting to push her more emotionally, like because us humans we're always driven more emotionally, so that's where he's trying to go. That's my take.
Okay. Well, that makes more sense there. Then that makes more sense now that you explain that because from the perspective of just me watching the movie, I go, "Oh wow, he's really forcing himself here. This is a real Me Too moment." When I mean, it's still kind of awkward. Don't get me wrong, but it makes a little bit more sense now that he's showing her what real human emotion is or whatever.
Well, you have to understand that he also a Blade Runner, which he hunts the replicants. So for him, seeing this type of model is it's kind of new.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that does clear that up a little bit for me. That's for sure.
Hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Uh, uh,
Any other scenes you guys want to discuss? Because there's a few floating around in my head.
Yeah. Well, one of the ones I wanted to talk about is well, kind of like a collection of scenes of whenever Deckard kills one of these replicants, they just go like completely visceral with the visuals and just seeing like the slow motion blood splatters and like the brutal deaths. I just noticed how like every death they just kind of kind of extended it and made it like like the word that Yemi loves so much, visceral.
Yeah, it seems like the guns that they use do a lot of impact damage for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know much, but I think maybe those are special bullets. I haven't checked myself actually.
It would make
Uh,
sense that they're special bullets because obviously the replicants are much stronger than humans. So you would think that they would have to make like a bullet that does as much damage as it possibly can. Because
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like they're using
they showed
laser
the guns
shots
a
in this,
lot.
you know.
Yeah, they showed the
Well,
guns a lot. It seems like.
well,
well, yeah, yeah.
it had to make. Well, it could be also because they were also kind of made it cybernetically, so they were react differently compared to a human, actually, too.
Yeah. It's possible that when you hit them with a bullet, something inside them explodes too. You know, does the massive exit wound. But the little bits of action that were in this movie were pretty good. The only action scene that I was really just like kind of confused by was the scene. It's kind of towards the end where he's fighting the replicant who's pretending to be the doll, and she does like the gymnastics, lands on his head, and he's trying to snap his neck. Harrison Ford turns around and faces her, and then for some reason she jumps off of him. Like, you have the kill shot there,
Yeah,
you can kill him right there. I just don't understand why she jumped off of Harrison Ford or Decker at that point. I feel like she had him where she wanted him.
because she had to
Um,
do some backy flips and
Well,
be
that's what
cool.
ended up getting her killed. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was for the line.
I was also very confused by that. Like at first, it seemed like she was like twisting his neck and actually about to break his neck, but
Yeah,
that was
yeah, I do
just his
remember that.
body being turned around.
Well,
Yeah, I
he
thought it
turned
was
around
his
his
neck.
body to counteract the neck being twisted. I would.
Mm,
That's what I got, because eventually his head was all the way turned around, and it definitely
yeah,
wasn't snapped at that point.
right.
Yeah,
It was just like
I thought
such
it was
a
gonna be like big reveal that he was like a robot or something. I was like, what?
He turned into Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know.
Yeah, I have to turn
There
my
you go.
neck up.
But yeah, I don't. It just seemed like very flashy for her to just want to run away just so you can come back doing cartwheels or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know
like the
what she
only
was
action
trying to
scene
do.
that I thought was kind of iffy. I thought the rest of them were really good. And I thought the
well,
ending part with the blonde haired one was like, not only was it a really good action scene, but it was also really suspenseful.
Yeah, those poor fingers.
Yeah.
oh, that's interesting fact. I just figured out. Apparently, the in the novel, "Do Angels Dream of Electric Ship," the bullets are described as a kind of laser bolt. So
Hmm.
probably that's what they've been using pretty much. So that's why when you hit him, he hits pretty much hard.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
especially, like you said, they're replicants. He has to use some kind of a tough weapon to kill them.
Yeah, they did a good job of making the guns look beefy too. Like, they don't look like a regular pistol or something. The
No,
guns
no.
look cool too.
Yeah.
So for your answer for God damn it, what's her name again? For the
Yeah, I
replicant,
was gonna look it up. I just call it the doll girl.
the
The dog
dog.
girl, mannequin drone.
Right.
Pris.
Yes, Pris. The reason I think she played gymnasium is because I don't remember if you guys remember when the chief showed him the four replicants that got escaped. He showed them what kind of specialty the replicants were, and you have to understand they've been in plenty of those different planets that have been exploited. You may say, I don't know, been used, whatever you want to call them, what I call it. And so they pretty much know tactical warfare, and so they know also psychological warfare.
Yeah, I
So
guess yeah.
and like you have to understand the whole movie is like a poetic movie itself too.
Well, yeah. It's just it kind of boggles my mind that she would jump off of him though at that point when she's about
Yeah,
to snap his neck.
Yeah,
Like, I understand, like, they're trying to be artsy with that, but it's like,
Well,
we can have a different
But
way for her to be thrown
yeah,
off of him.
Mm,
but
yeah.
you have to understand those replicants can kill. You seen how they killed before? They killed the
Right.
first guy. They killed the first guy with the eyes genetics, with the eyeballs genetics and everything, very easily. Just stick it in, do that, and dead. So sometimes I just wonder. Probably since they've been so much in warfare or whichever their business they were doing, I think they just like to savor the moment of someone's death.
exactly. You
Because
you see that happen
Yeah.
with Rutger Hauer's character when he snaps off Decker's fingers. Like before letting go, he gives the gun back. He places it in his hand,
Mm,
like he
very
actually gives
nice.
him the gun back.
Yeah, you can
Oh
definitely
yeah, I
see
can
that in
definitely
his
see that.
character. And his character was Roy, I believe.
Yeah,
Roy,
Batty or
Cat,
yes.
whatever.
Betty.
Batty.
Yeah, I thought that he was a really good like main antagonist for the film. I do wish that we had seen a little bit more of him before the finale, though.
Yeah. And you really don't like understand him until he gouges that guy's eyes out. You're like, oh, so that's how it's gonna be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that whole conversation between him and his maker was just so perfectly written.
Hmm.
And I mean, it got to the point where I wasn't expect. I mean, I knew he was gonna kill him sometime, but
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting him to do it like that and so
Well,
viscerally.
At least he
And
ac-
just
kissed
before
him
a
first.
kiss,
Yeah, at least he
Yeah.
kissed him first.
well, actually, I've been reading some articles, and someone mentioned that actually the kiss that he did to Tyrell, he just kind of understood what life is, but also kills him because what he did to him. You know, a replicant that lives for life, it's not something that a replicant will say, well, it's not reasonable,
Yeah, those. I mean, the replicants are only supposed to live for 4 years, and I love those lines where it's like, the strongest spark grows brightest, um, like faster or quick, whatever the line was. I thought that was a really good line in there because it describes them perfectly, especially
yeah,
with when they rebel.
Yeah.
yep.
yeah, yeah.
It is interesting to note. I'm sorry, Kenobi. It's interesting to note that in the 2049 movie, there's several different scenes where the replicant will kiss the person that they're killing. So maybe there is a deeper explanation for that.
Yeah, there is. Um, well, like I said, it's because so I think those moments are kind of meant to understand life. I think I'm not sure though. Maybe um, how can you say it? Like they understand what's life, like in a way,
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe it just shows like that emotional build from them. I don't know. That emotional growth.
It is emotional growth as well because they understand it's kind of maker. The maker is smart. The blah blah blah. He made them smart, and like the uh, it's like they understand what it's like. I guess it meant just they understood, like they understood like
Hmm.
what is it, what he meant, like that's how I guess they kissed. Like it could be also like a kiss for a whale, like here you go, man.
Yeah, could be that too. Maybe they don't understand the point of the kiss.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe
yeah,
that's how they say bye.
yeah, like Scary
Kiss.
Movie
Scary
3,
movie.
kicking
Yeah.
someone in the balls. Like, goodbye.
Goodbye. Kiss. Bye.
Well, actually, yeah, actually, the kiss is it's empathy. That's what they try to do. It's empathy towards the
Empathy. Interesting.
empathy. Yeah, it's a sort of like when to show. Yeah, I know it's interesting. Right before the kill. Like I said, they just love. I guess they just love like savoring people.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
his character, Batty, he was the one who understood like life and death the best out of all the replicants. I mean, you look at the other three replicants that he was with, and it seemed like he was the one who understood the best what life can be, and I guess that's kind of like the main subject to the story is like,
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
what the best you can with the life that you're given, almost.
that's correct. Well, yeah, but I think in some of them they understood, but you have to understand they all been made uh,
For different purposes.
for different
Mhm.
purposes, and I think for Roy Batty, he's been made differently as well because well we remember that even the makers himself says, "Oh, I remember you. I made sure this or this. Remember?"
Yeah. Hmm.
And when they says who made the brain design, who made the intelligence, whatever, and that's where we find out it's actually Tyrell when he went with Sebastian.
All right.
Yeah.
Any other scenes you guys want to discuss here? No.
Uh,
Trying to think.
it's
I mean,
okay.
there's a lot of scenes, of course, that we missed, but
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure we go along the way.
yeah, yeah. So Kenobi, you wanted to talk. You had like a second part to what you wanted to talk about.
Well, I didn't finish. Well, I was thinking,
Oh,
how you guys think about actors?
oh yeah. The acting was phenomenal in the
Yeah,
movie.
acting was great. Harrison Ford killed it as always. And,
Yeah, I think
but-
Harrison Ford was like the best. Maybe not the best, but he was a really good pick for the Blade Runner character. And I think of like there's the Fifth Element with what's his face, Die Hard guy. I
Bruce
can't think
Bruce
of his
Willis.
Willis.
Bruce Willis, and like
yeah.
he just doesn't fit in the sci-fi setting. But Harrison Ford, I mean, obviously with Star Wars, and now with Blade Runner, I mean, he kind of fits that profile that he was going for.
Would you actually believe me if I say I kind of like Harrison Ford better in the Blade Runner than in Star Wars a little bit?
Oh wow, okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean,
Interesting.
no,
Well, I mean, for
I
the
liked
character,
it.
he definitely plays two different characters. He's not the same character in both of them.
No,
And it does seem like he does more acting per se in Blade Runner than in his Han Solo. Um,
exactly.
yeah,
Well, I don't know if you remember, but Harrison Ford he wanted out with in the last movie Return of the Jedi because he found his the role kind of a two way and he didn't like it. You know, he's just a thug, ready to go there, help with the ship. You know, there was nothing like special. He was just like a space pirate, pretty much.
yeah,
Mhm.
You know, so he said to George Lucas one time, you know, you should kill me off. You know, and George Lucas said no.
yeah.
He just is a decline. And after a few years, well, we know what happens. Well, actually, it's no canon. It's no canon. Anyway, move on.
Yeah,
Moving
that's a
on.
whole other can of worms we don't want to open up right now.
Yeah, yeah. So, any other actors that you actually enjoyed?
Oh yeah,
Well,
I
I'm
mean, Rutger
always a big
Hauer
fan.
was awesome in this too.
That's what I was
Actually,
gonna say. Yeah, Rutger Hauer.
I like Rudy Hauer. I watched two of his movies, and I like two of his movies as well. I didn't see all of them, but uh,
He definitely had good roles in each of the movies that he was in that I've seen of him, like Batman Begins and Sin City. He had two really good roles in there.
Yeah,
And
he's
this
he's
one
been in a bunch of
was really
movies
good.
in the. Yeah, he's been in a bunch of movies like in the 80s and 90s, and I every time I see him, I do like his work, his
well,
acting.
I seen two movies that I really liked. It was The Hitcher and Flesh and Blood.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
Huh.
yeah, but I'm just saying because even there he kind of killed the roles to be has a an antagonist even there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And then, I mean, Rachel obviously the person who played Rachel, Sean Young, did a good job. And I also thought that Sebastian, the guy who played Sebastian, I thought he was also really good in the movie too.
Well, actually, there's a fun fact for the way how they created Rachel. It's based off the Hollywood look, actually.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
noticed that.
I don't
Yeah.
know if you know. Yeah, yeah,
That makes
you
sense.
noticed that. Yeah, and also a fun fact about Rutger Hauer. Ridley Scott hired him without even knowing him.
Really?
Oh
Mm.
wow.
Yeah, no cast. Just like here you go, buddy. I don't know you, but here you go.
Interesting.
Well, hey, it worked
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
It worked
Yeah.
out very well.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Greatest decision ever.
yeah. Well, yeah. Even before with the fun facts, I go on there. I want to start with Deckard. Actually, with Deckard, even for Deckard, they trying to pick some different actors, but they decided to go just for Harrison Ford. Yeah, it's true. They were like trying to cast Dustin Hoffman, some other actors like Clint Eastwood, but looks like Harrison Ford got the part.
Oh man, I couldn't even imagine Clint Eastwood in this part. Yeah.
I mean,
If this movie had more of a Western feel, then I'd be like, oh yeah, sure, Clint Eastwood. But this is definitely more noir than Western. It's like a sci-fi
Definitely.
noir.
yeah, it is a sci-fi noir. Actually it's tech noir, tech noir.
Oh, you gotta be specific now, huh? Okay.
Well, actually, if you want to be more specific,
Oh, here
I
we
don't,
go.
I, I don't know if you. Well, it's one term specific, but this movie goes to hard sci-fi and not soft sci-fi.
What sci-fi?
Soft.
There's
Oh,
soft sci-fi and there's hard
I
sci-fi.
see. I see.
Interesting.
You guys know what's a hard sci-fi? No, maybe.
I'm gonna guess
Uh,
that a hard sci-fi is when every actor takes Viagra.
A soft one is when they're recording in the winter. No.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead and explain it, Kenobi.
Well, hard sci-fi is more of a science fiction accuracy, let's say. It's a scientific accuracy and precise technical details as part of his world building, pretty much.
Okay.
While the soft sci-fi, it's something that they talk more about, like politics, like Star Wars, Star Trek.
Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, space opera. A lot of space operas are part of soft sci-fi, actually.
So would you say that Dune is hard or soft sci-fi?
Dune. Ooh,
That was definitely hard sci-fi.
I must say that has to be hard.
Yeah, because this has a lot to do with like the more deeper plot and like the politics between different factions and stuff like that.
Well, soft sci-fi. It's something that the which more puts like on psychology, society, culture, politics. They also have less emphasis on math, engineering, biology, computer science. Something we didn't see that in, of course, Blade Runner, because they explain it very well how the replicants were being made, pretty much. Like we understand how they've been made and why they've been made in scientific firms.
Yeah, with a few lines of text, they set up the movie really well. So one thing
So
that I wanted to bring up. Did you have anything else to add, Kenobi?
yeah, it was just a question that Callis asked, or if actually Dune is a soft sci-fi or a hard sci-fi. Um, I think it's soft sci-fi mode. I think, but I'm not sure though.
Okay. Well,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, I
We're
feel
gonna
like
see
it
it.
sounds more like a hard sci-fi, but well, that's okay. It's not the movie we're talking about, so it's
Different
fine.
movie. Yeah.
I wanted to just I know I we like I said at the beginning of the podcast, we watched Soylent Green not too long ago, which is a movie that takes place um in the around the same time as this one. This one takes place in 2019. I believe Soylent Green was like 2020, something like that, right?
2022.
2022. So just how different these people saw the future of the world. One is like this big built up city in Blade Runner with robots and flying cars and stuff, and then you have Soylent Green, which is like completely the opposite, where everything's desolate. There's not enough food. There's millions and millions and millions of people. Like did you guys think about that while watching the movie?
I definitely did. The one thing that both have in common is that they're both like very overcrowded. Like every time you
Yeah.
see Harrison Ford getting
Yeah.
from place to place, it's like he's brushing up against so many people
Well, and during
and all
that
that.
chase scene with the snake woman too, like that
Yeah,
was also like he was pushing through people trying. He went through like the bus at one point to get across the street.
yeah. But the way I see it, it's like the two movies. like the past, the quote unquote past for each setting is like completely different in that, for Soylent Green, they had run out of food or resources or whatever, so they set up that future where like nothing is really futuristic and everything's kind of been held back.
Hmm.
But I feel with Blade Runner, everything is thriving, and there is enough resources for everything to be built up.
Yeah. Yeah. They're both dystopian in their own ways, I guess you could say.
Yeah, greedy.
Yeah, I agree that it's the overcrowdedness, especially with the chase, was very replicant. But other than that, I really didn't compare the two because like one is so far in the future where we make all these like technology changes that we expected in the future, whereas Soylent Green was like couple steps back where everyone wanted these changes but didn't get it. That makes sense.
Okay.
We should also talk about the music, which was brought up earlier, but I wanted to bring it back again, and yeah, I loved the soundtrack, the synthesizers, the way that everything was kind of like interwoven with the scenes.
Hmm.
I thought that was one of the standout things about this movie that I really enjoyed.
Yeah. Great soundtrack. A little overbearing at times, but I thought it was just such a cool and like I love the music for like sci-fi movies and games because they always got that synthesizer in there that just makes everything sound so much cooler. You know.
Actually, the music for the Blade Runner, it's there's a lot of key refer points that is a early synthwave actually.
Hmm.
That would make sense.
Yeah, I mean it's basically is a kind of a early synthwave genre. So that's why the artist Evangelist created very phenomenal music, which goes very well with the atmosphere. So I really like. It was very amazing for me. It was like seven heaven from the sky itself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. Like the atmosphere and the music blend so well together. They go hand in hand very easily. And that's pretty cool that he kind of forged a way for the more synthwave type style, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and you can. I
obviously
was
there was
just
some.
sorry. No, go ahead.
So no, like obviously there was some other type of similar music that we know, like from John Carpenter, like the thing, like the thing, pretty much.
Yeah.
But the way how this been created, it's been created very differently.
Yeah, I was gonna say like music aside, this movie seemed to have inspired like so many other future projects, whether it be like movies, games, or whatever. I see just so much inspiration coming from that originated like with Blade Runner.
Okay. Um so
So
uh yeah,
before
go
I
ahead,
go
Kenobi.
to yeah, so before I step to part two, we talked about the cinematography, how was it so amazing, how it's been shot, right?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
mentioned that at the beginning.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
mentioned that.
yeah. So how do you like the storyline? Pretty much, like, was there something memorable, something predictable, which you're like probably were, I know that you were thinking much, a lot too. So I guess it was a kind of a heavy movie on you sometimes, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it did take me a minute to kind of understand what was exactly going on. Like they started at a very awkward moment with that conversation between they're trying to figure out if the one guy's a replicant or not. But once it gets going with the plot, it becomes much easier to follow.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
So
is the type of movie that you like. It benefits from like second or third viewings. If you want to go there to where there's so many subtle hints being thrown here and there, and like the plot itself is very intriguing, and it's the kind of movie where like I'm even though it's kind of slow, I didn't really the first time I watched it, I didn't really have a desire to watch it a second time. But watching it this time, I kind of like understood a little bit more, and I did enjoy this viewing more than I did the first time.
that's what happens with the Blade Runner movie.
Yeah,
Yeah, just from talking with you guys, I think I've already come around to liking it a little bit more. Um, it's one of those things. Like I'm also pretty big sci-fi fan. I mean, Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 are three of my favorite games ever. So a movie like this, I kind of look at it with a bit of a more finer microscope. But yeah, I think there were some things that were fixed in my mind. Well, just through conversation with you guys.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I bumped it up a little bit, but it was still a snooze fest a little bit.
Did you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Like me personally, or just as a group.
I mean, we can chime in if we need to.
Yeah, it just felt like it started off great, started off interesting, and then just kind of dips down a little bit in the middle of the movie, and then obviously the ending. I don't want to say the ending. I'm going to say, about maybe 16 minutes left of the movie started getting good again and interesting, but that whole middle part, it was just like, I don't know if you guys agree.
I mean, I kind of know what you're saying. I think that the movie is interesting enough that it makes the boring, the more slower parts worth it the sit through. But like I said before too, like it's like an extremely engaging movie while also being like a bit boring as well throughout as well.
Hmm.
That was a bad sentence, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, we get where you put it down.
It's called character development. We can see which character we need, which character we don't need, pretty much.
Yeah.
Mhm. So basically, we already know which replicant is gonna be smart or not. I'm like, you mentioned those. Do they evolve that much?
Hmm.
So yeah. So basically, I've been mentioned earlier that the book is called "Do Electric Sheep's Dream Forever."
That sounds right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. No, "Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep." Sorry. Yeah,
Oh,
that's the
okay.
one. And the movie is called Blade Runner. So I just want to mention a few that the book and the movie itself themselves are completely two different
Beasts.
subjects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, subject because of the novel, Deckard is a human. He did the test. He passed it. Also, in the book, what they call it's WWT, which is a War Terminus, is after a radioactive fallout, pretty much, where pretty much everything's dead. So animals needs to be conserved. There's a lot. There's been some religions created, and like I said before, mentioned before, the androids are being called androids and not replicants. In short, they call them androids. Yeah,
Hmm, okay.
yeah, because like I said before, it's the replicant is being used in the script actually.
So yeah, I mean, you could tell that the movie was based off of the book. It wasn't like a retelling. It was based off of the material, not a retelling of the story beat by beat.
Yeah,
Does
the
the
where
name? I was just gonna ask, like, does the name Blade Runner is supposed to signify something? Like, is it just something that sounds cool, or is
Well, Harrison
does
Ford
Blade
is a
Runner
Blade
actually?
Runner. He hunts the
Well,
replicants.
no. What I'm asking is the name itself, Blade Runner. Like, why are they called that within in the context of their world? Like,
Blade
do you know
Runner.
one? Yeah,
So why are Blade Runners called Blade Runners? Is what you're
yeah,
asking.
exactly.
Because
Yeah,
they have to go. They go after the. It does explain in the beginning of the movie.
Well, he's
I
asking
know
like,
what they
where's the
do.
name Blade Runner come from?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Maybe
Well,
maybe Kenobi has some information on that.
Yeah.
I do know where it actually comes from. I it's so we're gonna looks like we're gonna jump right straight to the facts.
Sure.
Yeah, looks like it. Well, the title Blade Runner actually it comes from it's been borrowed from a different book entirely, from actually two books, which is called also a Blade Runner as well, which also is been an early novel, which also been written by Alan E. Norse, and William S. Burroughs, which is a movie actually been called Blade Runner, which they have different meanings in there. One is complete something about medical or something like that. I don't remember, and the other one means something else. And so the titles been taken from a different novel to the film base.
So in that other novel, is the Blade Runner the same job, or is it like completely different?
No, it's completely different story. Completely different. It has nothing to do with killing
Hunting.
replicants or
Okay.
hunting androids or which, et cetera, et cetera.
So
So basically, they're just called Blade Runners because it sounds cool. It's basically it.
I guess so. I don't know. I haven't checked Ridley Scott to say, hey, what do you call Blade Runner, huh? But the
Well,
time,
it's
yeah,
just
but
something. Yeah, I was just curious about that.
did you have any more fun facts for us, Kenobi?
I do actually. I do. So I don't know if you guys know, but remember when Edward James almost started speaking city speak? It's
Yeah, I was
actually
very confused by that.
well, actually, it's a something they made it specifically for that character. It's a mix of language, Asian and European, like Japanese, Spanish, German, and even the Edward James almost like created something on his own by adding few other languages like Hungarian, Chinese, and French. So the whole bunch, it was very like confusing, of course, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's something that they definitely didn't explain in the movie.
No, didn't expect. But you have to also guess the time is different, and so and as you've seen, there've been a lot of immigrants in the Los Angeles. It's been based in Los Angeles, so there's a lot of immigrants coming there, and from the time I guess it just got mixed up with different languages in there, so they had their own pretty much, which you call in other words, you just call it city speak because is we're going from something old to the future, let's say, and they have their own languages. Probably,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like let's say if we're going from here to 100 years in the future, yeah, who knows? Maybe none of us are gonna speak English like international language. Somebody we probably gonna speak something a mix between English and Chinese or something else. I'm just fun fact. Just giving my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like how America's the great big melting pot, right? So eventually, it seems like all the dialects kind of form together from
Yeah,
the immigrant from all the people who immigrated and stuff like that, which is a really cool concept. Like that actually makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
very interesting that they thought we are going to be there in just 40 years,
Well,
or less than 40 years.
at the time when they were writing this movie and even Soylent Green, I mean, 2020 was so far off for them.
Right?
They probably weren't even thinking like, oh, are we? Is this really going to be? I mean, maybe it's what they hoped the world would be like. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, to put into context, that's like us thinking about 2062, and it's like,
Right.
yeah, that seems so far ahead.
Well, actually, this one gonna bring another fun fact because since the film would been set like in 2020, but they went with 2019 because they thought it would be kind of a like a pun inside 2020. Get it? Remember when they put those memes before, like those 2020 vision or whatsoever?
Yeah,
I don't remember actually.
Yeah, but they changed the year because also Scott was worrying that people would think he would make a pun if they put like 2020, like
He was worried about memes.
oh yeah, he was worried about
Yeah,
memes. That's
memes.
right, he was
So
worried about
wow,
memes.
very forward thinking of them.
Hey, you have to understand back then they don't know how the word is going to be changed.
Yeah.
What else I want to say?
Yeah, if you
Actually,
got if you got one more for us, we should be wrapping up the podcast here soon.
all right. Well, so if you have one more, so I'm gonna go straight for So I'm just gonna go one small fact, and then I'm gonna jump quick to influences.
Sounds good to
Uh,
me.
okay, so let's see. So one less. So this is two small facts about Roger Hugh Howard. The scene with him means tears in rain. That was him. He did it. He improvised it actually.
Wow, really?
Wow, really?
Yeah, he improvised it, and Ridley Scott said, "Bravo!" And that's how he did said history.
Wow. Okay,
Wow.
that's
also,
Yeah, that's
also,
awesome.
awesome.
yeah, and also, actually, that's a kind of a some fact. But Howard actually also died in 2019, sadly.
Oh wow.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was kind of ironic in days. So, anyways, I'm gonna go straight to influence before we wrapped up. I
Sure.
just want so I want to tell you that this movie actually is kind of a modern sci-fi because it changed the look, the cinematic sci-fi forever. For because there's a lot of movies that we know been kind of based on that font. A lot of like motion action movies or even animated of this cyberpunk look. The those near Asia is the like in the future. The orthodox and unmotivated light sources, the texture and atmosphere and vast sets, etc., that we've seen a lot of in the previous movies, like Matrix, uh, like Matrix, even a Terminator was been used in the first movie like this. Even some
Hmm.
and some movies like animated, like Ghost in the Shell, Akira, stuff like that. I mean, you guys pretty much can read that how it influenced because it's a long.
It's probably a very long list.
There's a lot of information, but I'm just telling you that it influenced quite enough live action sci-fi, those tech sci-fi noir movies that we know today, pretty much.
Hmm.
Yeah. And also, I just want to tell you, since we all kind of Star Wars fans, but replicants are kind of clone troopers, if you think about it.
Yeah,
Kinda, yeah.
kind
I
of.
guess you
I
could say
guess
that.
so.
I
I mean,
mean,
I guess clone troopers are more organic than a replicant, though.
yeah, but if you've seen the last season of Clone Wars season 7, you understand more. Where we get at that.
I guess I got to get around to that then.
Yeah, yeah, that's correct.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. If you want to start us off with your final thoughts and rating out of 5, Kenobi.
Well, since it's a cult movie, it became slowly a cult movie from the years because in the first, like in the theatrical movie, it was kind of was not very successful, but during the time, it became very amazing. Uh, I give 5 out of 5. My personal
All
view,
right.
a 5 out of 5
Wow.
No, okay.
I'm
because of
not gonna
the
lie, I saw it coming.
because
Yeah.
like I said, I like the way how they did it with all those poetic meanings, the view, the cinematics. It was just beautifully with the final cut. You can see how actually Ridley Scott wants to make this a masterpiece. You understand? So
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me, and especially the roles were amazing. I'm glad they were how they've been made and not been made differently. So how they made it, how they he was trying to make. So it is what it is. 5 out of 5 for me.
All
All
right then.
right. I'm gonna go next here. So, with talking with you guys, I mean, I originally was going to give this movie a 4, but through talking out some of these scenes and thinking about it a little bit more, I think I bumped my score up a little bit. I love the look of the movie. I love the atmosphere and the music, and it all blends together so well. The story is pretty good. It did kind of lag a little bit at some points, and as I said before, it's like super engaging, like with everything coming together. But there are some scenes and some parts where it does slow down a little bit. But I mean, I think about the movie and I go, oh, that's that whole section where he's interrogating the snake lady and then he's running after her, and that's like such a really great scene, and the whole ending sequence is just so intense and fascinating, and I love the implications of and where it kind of leaves the characters at the end of the movie. I'm not going to go as far as a five, but I think I'm going to bump it up to a 4.5. I do really like it.
Hey, yeah, I kind of agree with Yemi. I kind of did dislike this movie heading into this podcast, but now that Kenobi came with his knowledge, I guess you'd call it, he really did enlighten the movie up a little more, and talking to you guys did clear up the movie a little bit. I originally gave it a two because I was so confused and so like annoyed with it. I did fall asleep at it, but I did rewatch it. I watched the whole entirety. But I do agree with Yummy and Kenobi. This movie is very well visualizing. It's really very well put together. The storyline is interesting. It does keep you interested throughout the movie. The wardrobe and like the makeup and all that was also phenomenal. The acting was great, and the ending was also very intense. And I'm gonna bump my score up to a 3.5.
Has this ever happened before? Because like I'm kind of also thinking of bumping up my score
Yeah,
like
right.
throughout the discourse of this movie. This has
I think it happened with Kung Pao. I was able to talk you guys up a little bit on that one.
Yeah.
yeah, maybe. Well, not me. I don't think I was. Usually, I go in like thinking of a certain rating, and I usually go by that at the end. But I don't think I did that with Compile. But yeah, originally I was
All
gonna
right,
think.
party pooper.
Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah. Or anyways, originally I was gonna like. I was thinking this was 3.5 for me. Just because it so many parts like drag on and just it's such a slower paced movie. But yeah, just thinking about it more and like having that realization that I just had, near the beginning of the podcast of like, realizing, that's the dream sequence is connected to this and that, and everything is just so intricately put together. And again, I love the visuals. The music is really cool. I do like the 80s synthesizers sound, and the acting was like really well done from everyone. And really quick, I want to throw out there was a movie I was thinking of with Rutger Hauer in it, and I just remembered it. It's called Blind Fury, where he's the main actor in it, and he plays like a blind swordsman. A really cool action movies from the 80s. I'd recommend it to everyone. But
yeah.
yeah, all in all, I would have to give this movie a 4 out of 5.
What was that movie called? Blind Fury?
Yeah, Blind Fury. Rutger Hauer leads.
All right, I'm going to add that to my watch list. There you
Cool.
go. So as people probably noticed, Tay isn't here today. He kind of went MIA before recording, so we don't have any information on what he thought of the movie. So we'll get his thoughts next time around at the beginning of next episode, which is my recommendation. And it's always a fun moment to see how you guys are going to react to a movie that I recommend.
Should
But
I do
I'm
like a
gonna
drum roll?
no, don't worry. Actually, Callus, you probably are going to do a drum roll because I'm going to be
Oh.
recommending a movie that's kind of in the same genre. It's like a noir story, and it stars one of Callus's favorite actors,
Oh.
Jackie Chan.
Oh.
And
Okay.
they just added this movie to HBO Max. It's called Police Story from 1985. It was directed by Jackie Chan himself. And the synopsis is Officer Chan Ka Koi manages to put a major Hong Kong drug dealer behind the bars practically alone after a shooting and an impressive chase inside of a slum. Now he must protect the boss's secretary, Selena, who will testify against the gangster in court. And this stars Jackie Chan, Bridget Lin, Maggie Chung, Bill Tung, and more. So I saw this movie on HBO Max, and I was like, "Damn, this looks pretty cool." And I was like, you know what? My pick is coming up soon. I might as well just pick it. I've never seen it, so if it's bad, sorry. If it's good, you're welcome. But I'm
Well, I
I'm
might
interested. The synopsis sounds pretty good, so I'm definitely interested in this.
definitely have a lot of thoughts on this one, but I'll save it for the episode.
All right. So, if you want, like I said, if you want to check that, if you want to watch the movie before the episode, if you don't want to be spoiled, or if you want to enjoy the conversation, it is available on HBO Max. I believe there's a Criterion Blu-ray for it from Amazon, but your best bet is going to be HBO Max for this one.
Okay.
And make sure you watch the correct one. There's like 2 or 3 sequels to it, so yeah.
Yeah, there is one called Police Story that's like more recent, like I believe like early 2000s. That's just Police Story. So yeah, don't get it mixed up.
Don't get it mixed up for the original. All right. Well, thank you once again to Kenobi for coming on the show. A well of knowledge, I will
Yeah,
say.
well knowledge.
And if you want more knowledge from him, you can join his sci-fi Discord, which I will link in the description below if you want to check out what he does there. Kenobi, anything you want to say before we sign off?
Yes. So apparently, I found out that Kalos and Greedy have a weak-minded, and I can Jedi mind trick them.
Oh man.
You tricked us all. You all got us to raise our scores.
Yeah, got them all.
I didn't. That was the Force. That wasn't me.
Alrighty. Well, thank you again for watching or listening to our podcast here, Film Freaks with a Z. I am I'm sorry. I am Nexus 6 the Ferret, and I've been here with.
Runner waffles.
K for L for S.
And General Obi-Wan Kenobi. Kenobi out.
And we are Film Freaks with a Z. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Clean your ass.
May the Force be with you.